There's three components that go into a marketing campaign: the message, the market, and the media. The market is who are we actually marketing to? Most marketing messages try to speak to all of them. When you speak to everybody, you speak to nobody. And then once you understand what that market wants, what their fears, what their desires are, then you can start crafting your message. What does our market care about? What is our market interested in? The third piece is the media. Where do we put this message? Then you understand what to say to them, and you also understand where to say it to them. Welcome to the Law Firm Growth Acceleration Podcast. My name is Andy Stickel, and this week I want to tell you the story about how I realized that I'm not a total idiot. So what's funny is that my son and I have been playing chess with each other for the last 2 years or so, right? And really up until the last 6 months, we were about even 50-50. I'd win some games, he'd win some games. Now, he's 9, so that's not boding too well for me. But really, about 6 months ago is where a shift happened, and he kind of started dominating and winning about 75% of the time, then 80% of the time, then 90% of the time, and now he wins basically every single time. And this whole time, I was thinking, well, I'm getting beaten by a 9-year-old. I'm 41 years old. I'm getting beaten consistently by a 9-year-old. I must be a bigger idiot than I thought, right? So then this week, he goes and he plays in a regional chess tournament, and he qualifies for the state finals in the entire state of Georgia. So that made me feel a little better. That made me feel maybe I'm not a total idiot. Maybe he's actually really good at chess. But it's actually really interesting because there was a big shift about 6 months ago that actually led to where he started getting better and better and better and better, and where I just kind of stayed the same. And that difference is that he started taking chess lessons. Now, when he's taking chess lessons, all that they're doing is they're teaching you strategy, right? They're teaching you, about openings. They're teaching you about mid game. They're teaching you about end game, all that type of stuff. And when he starts playing me, now what he's doing is he's actually being more strategic, and he's actually recognizing patterns, and is actually understanding, oh, if I do this, then he needs to do this. Whereas I'm just basically moving random pieces. The only training I've ever taken in chess is where I watched one YouTube video once where I was like, how do the chess pieces move? And after that, I was kind of like, all right, I'm good. I got this. I can figure this out. But he started beating me. So I started going on YouTube and I started looking up chess videos, and I started having this Dunning-Kruger effect. And Dunning-Kruger, if you don't know what that is that's where the less you know about a topic or a subject, the more confident you are that you understand the subject. And then the more you learn, the more you realize you don't know, right? So you've probably experienced this before. You see this happen in real time. Just go on social media and look at how many experts you have on your friends list who are experts in politics or experts in international warfare. I remember when Russia invaded Ukraine, suddenly everyone on my Facebook feed was an international relations expert, right? And you can see this over and over and over again, and it's both sides. It's not, I'm not being political here. It's everybody does this, right? So I was doing this. I was doing this with chess. I was like, how hard can it be, right? Because the thing is that every once in a while I would win, right? We'd play, and every once in a while I would get lucky, and more likely I'd get lucky. He'd make a mistake, and then I'd accidentally make a good move, and I would win, right? But most of the time he wins because he actually understands the strategy, and I'm just not really following the strategy. I'm just kind of doing things halfway, right? That's like a lot of law firms. I talk to a lot of law firms who are trying to get clients. They're trying to grow. They're wondering, why can't I consistently get leads? Why can't I consistently sign up clients? Why is it always so hard to get people who have money, people that are not saying that they're broke? Like, why why can I not get these clients? And the reason why is because you're not using any strategy whatsoever, right? So what I want to talk about today is a very simple strategy that law firms are ignoring that will make a huge, huge, huge difference and will make it so much easier for you to get clients. And it's the type of thing that once you start learning this stuff, it's kind of Pandora's box. You can't put it back in, right? Now, the things that you have to understand is that marketing is kind of like a triangle, right? There's three components that go into a marketing campaign. And if you have any one of these things wrong, the triangle doesn't connect and your message is going to fall flat, right? So the three things are the message, the market, and the media. So I want to talk about all three of these things. The first thing I want to talk about is the market. The market is, who are we actually marketing to? And I'll give you a clue. It's not everybody. It can't be everybody, because different people have different needs, different desires, different fears, different wants, different aspirations, right? And I want you to think about this for a second. Let's say you are an estate planning attorney, and this is applicable. It doesn't matter what your practice area is, but I want to give an example of estate planning. Let's say you're an estate planning attorney, and there's three different couples that are sitting in your waiting room. The first couple is a married couple. They're in their 30s. They have two young kids. They own their own house, and they own a small business. The second couple is a couple that they're in their late 60s, and they're empty nesters, and they've just retired, and they're getting ready to downsize. They're getting ready to sell their house. They're actually going to sell their house, and they're going to buy an RV, and they're going to travel around the country because they want to be able to travel and see their kids and their grandkids who all live in different states. And then the third couple is a same-sex couple who is not legally married, but they are partners. They don't have any kids. They both are very high income earners. They own a house, and they have two dogs. Now, I want you to think about these three couples. Do all of these three couples have the same needs in terms of what they need? Actually, let me ask you this question. Do all three of these couples need an estate plan? Do they need healthcare directives? Do they need some sort of will, or do they need some sort of trust, or do they need some sort of plan should something happen to one of them, right? I'm not an estate planning attorney, but I'm pretty sure the answer is yes. They all need some sort of plan. But are their needs the same? Do they need the same type of plan? Do they have the same goals? Do they have the same fears? Do they have the same risks? Do they have the same desires, right? And the answer is no. They're three completely different avatars. But the problem is that most marketing messages try to speak to all of them, right? So when you speak to everybody, you speak to nobody. So one of the first things I always tell clients to do, and I always tell lawyers to do, is, first of all, we have to understand, who are we targeting in our messaging, right? Like, who are we actually talking to? Because let's say you're going to talk to the same sex couple. If you were to create an ad, and we're going to talk about the message in a minute here, but if you're going to create an ad that's going to speak directly to that same sex couple, well, if you put that same ad, which might speak directly to them and talk about all their needs, all their wants, all their desires, all their fears, and actually, like, be perfectly dialed into them to where they raise their hand and say, yes, this is the attorney I want. I see now that I need an estate planning for these reasons, X, Y, Z, and this is the attorney that I'm going to go to. It's a perfect ad. If you put that same message in front of the couple in their 60s who's retired, it's going to fall flat because it's a different message, right? So the first thing that you have to understand is you have to understand your market. Who am I actually talking to? And you don't actually have to, you don't have to narrow down specifically, like you don't have to just make your law firm just for same-sex couples, or just for people in their 30s, or just for people that are empty nesters, for example, in this example. But what you want to do is you want to understand that you have different demographics of people. And different demographics have different needs. Different demographics have different desires. They have different wants. They have different fears. They have different aspirations. So when you can figure out who is my ideal demographic, and that's where I would start. I wouldn't recommend going after three different demographics, because if you speak to everybody, you speak to nobody. And also, one of my favorite sayings is, when you chase three rabbits, you catch none of them, right? So actually, I think it's when you chase two rabbits, you catch none of them. But either way, let's focus on one person. So what I always tell lawyers to do is start thinking about, like, who is your ideal demographic? Who are your ideal candidates? Who's the ideal person? And the thing you have to remember is that it has to do with demographics, not case types. So, for example, if you are a personal injury attorney, this is when I ask all the time. I say, who are you actually going at? Who is your ideal client? And they say, people who have car accident cases. And I say, no, that is not your avatar. You need to, people hire you. Cases don't hire you, right? So what you need to start figuring out is you need to start figuring out who are the types of people that actually hire you. Who and one of the easiest ways you can do this is go back and look at your past cases, look at your ideal demographics, look at your your favorite clients, and what do they all have in common? What are the demographics they have in common? What was their income? What was their education? What was their occupation? Like different things like that. And then you can start speaking to those types of people. So we have a client who sold his law firm a couple of years ago, but he's a family law attorney, and he did a great job of creating content on a regular basis. He created tons of content about, divorces and child custody and, paternity and all types of things like that. And he was just getting inundated with consultation requests. It's actually one of my favorite stories. He actually got so busy with consultations because of all this content he was creating that he had to start charging for consultations, right? And then because of the fact that, and then because he was so popular, he actually sold out of paid consultations. Like they didn't have any room for paid consultations. And what's interesting is that he came to me, he's like, yeah, I'm doing all these paid consultations. He sold out of paid consultations for 3 months is what I should have said. So basically 3 months out, he was booked with people who are paying to do consultations. Like what a great situation to be in. But he's like, the problem is I'm not attracting my ideal clients. We were having a meeting and he's like, I'm not attracting the ideal people that I want to bring into my law firm. A lot of times it's people that are, they're not low income, but they don't have those high net worth divorces that I really want to get, because high net worth divorces can be very, very lucrative for the firm. So I was like, okay, well, let's look at the content that you're putting out, right? And the content that he was putting out, it wasn't bad content. It was obviously effective. It was working. But I was like, who are you going after? And let's look at what who's your ideal avatar, and let's look at what you're putting out. So his ideal avatar is high net worth divorces, which means, like I said, people hire you, cases don't hire you. His ideal avatar is actually people that are affluent, right? People that have a lot of money. So we're talking entrepreneurs. We're talking, people that are, people that have high net worth jobs, things like that, right? So we're looking at his content, and his content is basically, five ways to tell if you're ready for a divorce, or what to do how to handle a cheating spouse and things like that. And I was like, these are great topics. They're obviously bringing in leads, but these are things that everybody cares about. If you are trying to get high net worth individuals, then you need to create content that high net worth individuals actually care about. So I was like, what do high net worth individuals care about? So he's like, well, they care about what do I do with passports for children for international travel? Because a lot of times people that have high net worths, they're going to go on vacation, but they're not going to Florida. They're going to, Costa Rica, or they're going to Puerto Rico, or they're going to these exotic places, Cancun, different places like that. What about dividing business assets during a divorce? People that are just middle income that just have jobs, they're not interested in how do I divide business assets. What about how do I deal with vacation homes and property in different states during a divorce? How about hidden bank accounts? Like all these things that only rich people care about. Like how do we divide up the brokerage accounts and things like that? These are things that only rich people care about. And what happens is that when you understand the market, so his market is affluent people, then you can take the right message and put it in front of the right people. And that's the second part of the triangle, is the message. So you've got the market, you got to know the market. And then once you understand what that market wants, what their fears, what their desires are, then you can start crafting your message, right? So for this attorney, his name is Patrick. What happened is he started shifting his message. He started creating content that only rich people cared about. And lo and behold, what do you think started to happen? All of a sudden, these people that are affluent, that have these questions about, does my husband have hidden bank accounts? he found a video on that, and all of a sudden they start coming in, and lo and behold, he started getting lots and lots and lots of clients that were high net worth individuals. And the reason why is because he shifted his message. Another great example of this is we were working with a client who is a personal injury attorney, and he wanted to get more traumatic brain injury cases. So we started looking and we're like, okay, who is the actual market? Who are the people that actually hire personal injury lawyers or attorneys for traumatic brain injuries, right? And most of the time, the marketing is targeted to people that have been injured and have the traumatic brain injury themselves. But what he told me is that most of the time, it's not the victim that hires the attorney. Most of the time, it's the family that hires the attorney. So now what we're going to do is now we've established the market, right? We've established the market is the victim or the family of a victim, not the victim themselves. So now that we know who our market is, we can start asking the question, okay, what does our market care about? What is our market interested in? What are the fears, desires, aspirations that keep our market up at night? So what we found is that a lot of times people who are caring for a loved one with a traumatic brain injury, they really are looking for support. They're looking for resources. They're scared that their loved one is going to not be able to that they're going to get hurt, that they're going to hurt themselves, or that they're that they're going to run out of money, or that they can't work, or different things like that. There's a lot of different things that they need, and what they need is they needed resources. So what we started doing is we started creating content, and it was videos, but also it was like lead magnets in our ads and things like that were providing free resources and sources of free resources to the family members of victims of a traumatic brain injury, especially the people that are caring for someone with a traumatic brain injury. He was in Louisiana, and the best lead magnet that we ever ran was literally it was a PDF document that you could download, and it was all the resources available to you if you live in New Orleans and have a loved one with a traumatic brain injury, both locally, statewide, and then he was in New Orleans, so both locally, statewide, and then nationally, any federal programs or anything like that. That's all it was. But what happened was it got people who had a loved one who had a traumatic brain injury to raise their hand. Now, this did bring in people who, they had the case was gone, right? Like there wasn't actually going to be a case, but it all, so people that maybe were injured 5-10 years ago. However, it did also bring in people who currently, like recently, had a traumatic brain injury, right? And in a 7-month period, he ended up bringing in 10 traumatic brain injury cases and bringing in, I think the number was almost $3 million in fees for his firm just by making this shift. So when you understand the message and the market, then these two go hand in hand, and now you're actually thinking strategically, and now you're playing the marketing game the way that my son plays chess, and it gets a lot easier when you start recognizing these patterns. Now, the third piece is the media. Where do we put this message, right? So what you have to understand is that there's different places that you can put your message out there. And I kind of equate it to fishing. You have to understand, once you understand your market, then you can understand where to put their media. So, for example, I'll give you the most, the easiest one. Let's say that you are targeting an extremely conservative right-wing crowd, right? Would it make more sense to run advertisements on Fox News or MSNBC? I think the answer that everybody knows would be Fox News, right? Conversely, let's say you're targeting an extremely liberal crowd. Would it make more sense to run ads on Fox News or MSNBC? MSNBC, right? So what you need to think about is where does my market spend time, right? So if your market is of a certain age, so let's say that you're trying to run ads or you're trying to create content that's going to be targeting people in their let's say you're doing child custody, right? We happen to know that child custody, especially when we run our Google ads, we will run our child custody ads anywhere from ages when we're actually specifying demographics for on Google. Child custody will go anywhere from 25 years old up to probably about 45 years old, right? Well, where do those people hang out? Um, they hang out on Facebook, but we also know that they hang out on TikTok and they hang out on Instagram, right? So we want to make sure that we have a presence on those platforms because that's where our demographic is actually spending time, right? Now, think about this. Let's say that you're going for let's say you're an elder care attorney, right? And elder care attorneys are typically going to be dealing with people that are in their 50s, maybe their 60s, but probably their 50s. And what these are the children of people who need assistance, right? So people in their 50s, people in their 60s, they're not spending time for the most part on TikTok, on Instagram, but they do spend time on Facebook and they do spend time other places, right? And actually, these are the people that, because they're a little older, and because it leans more, because as you get older, you tend to lean more conservatively. These are the places that Fox News might actually make sense, right? So what you want to think about when you're creating your market and your message, specifically your market, you want to think, where are they actually hanging out, right? Because when you understand the market, then you understand what to say to them, and you also understand where to say it to them. Now, social media is typically going to be your best bet. And the older the market, if it's an older market, you're typically going to go for Facebook. A little bit younger, you're gonna blend Facebook and Instagram. And then if you're going for younger people, I would say like the child custody example, if they're in their 20s, and even if you're doing anything younger than that, you definitely want a blend of TikTok and Instagram. Most younger people are not necessarily on Facebook that much. So again, these are all things, and I'm just giving the example. There's lots of other places. Even like Google ads, for example. Like people are starting to use TikTok as a search engine more than even Google as a search engine, right? And I've even found myself doing this. If I have a question, I'll go to Google. I'm sorry, if I have a question, sometimes I'll actually go to TikTok before I go anywhere, or I'll go to YouTube to try to get the answer before I'll go to Google. So you have to understand like the behaviors of the market as well. And then once you understand that, then you can figure out what type of media to put in front of them. Now, when you do this and you do this on a consistent basis and you really understand this, then what's going to start happening is that you're going to start getting luckier more often, just the way that I was getting luckier with beating my son. But what you're going to find out is that it's actually not luck. It's because you're speaking to people in things that they care about. You have to remember, people really, especially when it comes to your messaging, there's only three things that people care about. And it's, what is it that they want? How do they get it? And what's their life going to be like after they get it? And this is super, super important. The thing that you need to remember is that they don't care about your legal services. They don't want your legal services. The message needs to be about them, because if they could get a desired outcome without hiring a lawyer, you better bet they're going to do it, right? That's why LegalZoom exists, because LegalZoom found a niche where there's a certain group of people that they wanted services that lawyers provide, but they don't want to pay lawyer prices, right? Now, pretty much every lawyer I've ever talked to will tell you what a disaster hiring LegalZoom can be, but that's a whole other story. It doesn't matter. That served a need. LegalZoom understood they're not going after these Fortune 500 companies. They're going after somebody that's just starting their business and they're on a budget and they want to file their LLC for $99, or they're going after, the lower income, maybe not low income, but low to mid income family that just wants to get a basic will done, or whatever they're looking for, right? They understand their market. And that's their market matches their message. And that's why LegalZoom has done so well. Now, obviously you could argue all day long if LegalZoom is actually a good provider of legal services. And I would argue they're probably not, but that doesn't matter. That's not the point we're trying to make here. But again, the messaging that you put out everywhere you go, you want to talk about these three things. What is it they want? How do they get it? And what is their life going to be like after they get it? And that's one of the most important things that you can talk about. And you should talk about this in your ads. You should talk about this on your website, on your landing page. You should talk about this during your consultations, because they're not buying your legal services. They're buying a result. You have to remember, you sell a result. You don't sell legal services. If you're a divorce lawyer, you don't sell divorces. You sell the opportunity to start a new life. You sell the opportunity to have a relationship with their kids. You sell the opportunity to get rid of or to escape an abusive relationship. You don't sell divorces. The divorce is the vehicle that takes them to the resort. I always talk about something called the airplane test, speaking of vehicles and resorts. And it's very, very important to understand this. And this is something that you need to always think about whenever you're doing any messaging whatsoever, whether you're talking to clients, whether you're creating ads, creating videos, creating, anything, website content, blog posts. So my wife and I went to Cancun a couple years ago, and we hired a travel agent to book the Cancun vacation because we don't speak Spanish. So the travel agent got back to us after we kind of told her our requirements, and she's like, all right, I found the perfect place for you. It's amazing. It's a 5-star resort. It's adults only, all you can eat, all you can drink. Your room is right on the beach. You've got your own private plunge pool. You've got your own butler. You walk out the back door, you're right on the beach, and you have your own private a cabana. They call it a palapa, and they come out and they serve you food and drinks and all that type of stuff on the beach. And absolutely amazing, right? There's 7 restaurants, and it's incredible. But the one thing she never told us about was the airplane ride. And the reason why is the airplane ride sucks. The airplane ride is arguably the worst part of the vacation, especially the ride coming home. Like, the one going there kind of sucks, but the one coming back is terrible because you have to go through customs and it's horrible, right? But she didn't talk about the airplane ride. She talked about the resort. She didn't talk about the vehicle. She talked about the resort, because nobody wants the vehicle. What they want is the resort. Now, your legal services are the vehicle. The result that they want is the resort. So if you focus on selling the resort, if you focus on talking about the resort, and the only way you can know what that resort is if you know who your market is, who is the client that we're actually going after. Like, what are their demographics? What are their psychographics, right? Who are those people? And then what is the resort to them? What is their resort, right? If you're a family law attorney, the resort of a father is very different than the resort of a mother. If you're a criminal defense lawyer, maybe the resort is, let's say somebody who got a DUI and they have a CDL license, right? Their resort is not losing their livelihood and not having to take a pay cut for the rest of their life and all that stuff. But let's say it's a school teacher who got arrested, right? Maybe her resort is protecting her reputation and making sure that this doesn't get out and that she doesn't have something on her criminal record, right? So there's different needs that different people have, and everyone has their own version of a different resort. Just like my dream vacation is the beach. My wife loves going to the mountains, right? 2 people, we both want to go on vacation, but you can't really sell me on a mountains vacation. You can't really sell her on a beach vacation, right? But we both want to go on vacation, and we both need to go on vacation. So if you put different messaging in front of each of us, you would get a sale different ways, right? So then once you have that market, you have that message, then the only thing you have to do is you just have to deploy that message to the right media. And that media is going to be, where can you find those people? Where can you find that market? Where does that market hang out? And when you do that, then marketing becomes really, really easy. And this is the biggest hack to marketing. It's so easy when you do it this way. If you don't, first of all, think about who is it that I'm talking to, who's my market, and then what is the message that I actually need to put in front of them. And it's not about you. It's about them. It's what do they want? How do they get it? What is their life going to be like after they get it? If you can show those things to the right market and you put it in the right place using the right media, marketing and growing any business whatsoever gets really, really easy. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions about this, or if you need any help trying to figure out what is your market. And you know, sometimes people need my help really understanding who their market is. So feel free to leave it in the comments and I can definitely give you some feedback on that. Until next time, we will talk to you soon.
If you found value in this podcast, here's one way I can help your firm right now. First, you can get our new book, Law Firm Growth Accelerator. It's everything we've learned over 10 plus years helping lawyers build thriving, profitable firms. The strategies that you'll get in this book work for any practice area and any revenue level. You can get the audiobook and ebook 100% free, or just cover the shipping and we'll send you the physical copy to you in addition to the audio and ebook. Go to smbteam.com/book to get your copy.